Good afternoon to you all. My name is Yazid Salahuddin Mikhail. I am from Nigeria and I work with the Ashley Lashley Foundation where I'm leading the campaign called the Healthy and Environmentally Friendly Youth Campaign. We have over 200 young people who are working on the intersection of climate change and human health from across Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, North America, Latin America, and Europe. We build their capacity to be able to fight against the impact of climate change and on human health in their community. And today, this session themed Our Future, Our Fight, Health and Climate Unite. We're bringing all these incredible young people from different parts of the world to share how climate change affects human health in their community and the incredible work that they are doing to fight against the impact. These people have led different campaigns and activities that have transformed how people understand the impact of climate change on human health in their community. And today you're going to be listening to their insightful stories. And we'll also have an expert who is going to be joining them. She's going to join us before we end up the session. Ana Amelia, she's the Vice Minister of Climate Change and Sustainability for the Dominican Republic. They're also doing an incredible work on the intersection, and we get to listen to them today. As we begin the session, I'm going to call on the moderator, Ahmed Yar. Ahmed Yar is going to be moderating the session, and he would be inviting the other speakers to join in. Ahmed, if you...
Sure. Hello, everyone. So I think I should first introduce myself.
Yep.
So basically, I'm Ahmed Yar from Pakistan, and I come from the country that is affected most by the climate change. And initially, first in 2022, we almost lost like $33 billion and 1,700 people. And talking about gender empowerment and gender equality, the women in these kind of areas that are affected areas, I actually have the chance to visit these areas. And the women actually lack the use of sanitary pads. They don't have the resources to use sanitary pads in these kind of areas. So basically, I'm running my own organization in Pakistan, which is termed as Ibtada, which means initiating change. And I'm also working with government, I'm also working with NGOs and INGOs to have something for my people from Pakistan. And we're also trying to build some partnerships in order to promote our people, because in most of the areas in Pakistan, the women, specifically talking about the gender, the women don't have the opportunities to come to the sessions like COPs or international meetings. So my organization and I am actually trying to promote these kind of initiatives for the people. So having you on board is a great privilege for me and looking forward. So I will try to introduce my panelists. The one is Iman Danish Khan, and she is also from Pakistan. She is 14 years old and one of the major names that is representing Pakistan at international stage. And next one is Nia Tapu. She is from India and she's a Hay ambassador as well, and she's a climate change activist. Next one is Chris Smith, and he is also here with me, and he's representing his country as well. And we can say about the expert panelist is Ma'am Anna, and he is acting as a Vice Minister for Climate Change and Sustainability from the Dominican Republic. And yeah, we have chatted as well. So looking forward for the session. And can we start? Yeah, sure. That's good. Thank you. I think we should start.
Yeah.
I have given my introduction, and now I would like to allow Nia to introduce herself to the audience. So yeah, please.
Okay, so greeting, namaste. My name is Nia Tapo, and I belong to an indigenous Idumismi tribe from Arunachal Pradesh, India. So I might look very different, but I am an Indian. So, okay, so I was representing as a ambassador for Asia last year, and it's an honor that they asked me to come to the panelist again. So this is my introduction.
That's great to hear. So I would like to look Christmas for introduction, please.
Thank you. My name is Crispas Mwemaho. I am from Uganda. I'm a Hay ambassador of the 2022 cohort. And professionally, I have a background in clinical medicine and community health. And this topic is very dear to me, but also I co-found an organization called Abayuti Climate Action Network, and health and climate is one of our thematic target areas, But also, most importantly, I also work I am on the technical working group of the Health National Adaptation Plan of our country back in Uganda. Uganda is one of the, I think Uganda and Nepal are the first countries to develop the Health National Adaptation Plan. And I was privileged to be part of the technical working groups. So today's discussion is one that is so close to me.
Thank you so a lot. So Yazid, if you can kindly introduce the Hey Ambassador, what it's all about, and what we are trying to do here. So if you can kindly.
Yeah, so thank you once again. My name is Yazid Salahuddin Mikhail, and again I'm from Nigeria, and it has been an incredible honor working with these incredible young people in the last 3 years, helping them champion the change that they want in their community and building their capacity to do so in a sustainable way. Today we have over 250 ambassadors across over 50 countries from Asia, Latin America, about 6 regions in the world. What we do is yearly we bring them together, take them through a 6-week capacity building, trying to deepen their interest on the knowledge of how climate change affects human health and support them to build sustainable projects on the intersection. Because we understand that the impact of climate change on human health is vast and it's yet not so noticed by so many people, and the impact affects mostly young people. So we figure that it's important we build the capacity of young people to champion the change, and that way they're able to spread the voice and the changes that are making within their community. And the program has seen incredible young people who are doing fantastic work in their countries. We've heard from Crispos, Nia, and Ahmed is also our 2024 Hey Ambassadors, and Iman is also going to be joining us today. So that's basically what we do at the Hey campaign. Yeah, it's interesting. I look forward to hearing what you all will be discussing today.
Yeah, sure. I think Imam is joining us in a bit. So I think we should start our session, and our main theme is climate change. Because talking about my past experience when I started this journey of climate change, I met a lot of people, and I thought that attending conferences like COP maybe will be a good thing to tackle climate change. But talking honestly, it is not that much of a thing. You have to perform some things on the ground as well in order to have something for your people and for your country. It's okay to attend conferences, but talking about ground realities, it is very much important to talk to your people. Talking about my people in Pakistan, they don't know what is COP, what is climate change, what is environment, and I am here talking about all these sort of things. So I think it is very much important to have a general knowledge about the climate change for all the people, specifically for the people that don't have the privilege to attend COPs. First thing that I would like to highlight. And secondly, according to my research and my opinion, I think that developed countries, specifically talking about global north, should have some kind of privilege to allow the loss and damage fund. Talking about climate justice, like COP29 has the theme of climate justice. We should have some kind of, you can say that privileged nations to have something for the people, for the global south, because they promised in the last COP, in COP28, amount of $100 billion, and nothing's on the ground. They talk about carbon credits, but nothing on the ground. So I think rather than making policies, rather than having sessions, conferences, it is very much important to have some physical things and physical implementations on the ground for the people of all around the world. One country is completely extinguished from the world, and we can't say that what they have done for the climate change. They are producing less than 1% carbon footprints. So I think we should definitely look into these factors, and I completely understand that fossil fuel is being learned by Azerbaijan as well, and we can't completely eradicate the use of fossil fuels because it is not possible. I am a student of chemical engineering, and I completely understand that when you have these kind of fossil fuels, they are a pure form of energy rather than a renewable form of energy. But I think that you should have to take a step. First step is very much important, and after that you can have some kind of more innovative ideas, more entrepreneur ideas in order to solve the issue of climate change. So this is a kind of, you can say that some things that I have seen in my past 3 to 4 years. So I will get back to my session, and I will ask Nia to talk about the climate change, how climate change has affected her country, and what are her future steps in order to eradicate the climate change. So please.
Thank you so much. So This session, I'm going to take you to a journey. So if I'll start complaining about the climate change impact in our community, it's not going to end. So I'm going to share some positive aspect about it. So as I mentioned, I come from a community called Idumishmi. So we are one of the well-known community as an indigenous community. We believe in the taboos of hunting. We don't hunt animals. So that's interesting. Yeah. We see tiger as our brother. So we still coexist with tigers in our area. And the other thing is that we don't even cut jungles. We believe in the secret forest. So this is how we have been living for ages. But now the challenges is very different. So we were living peacefully and happy, coexisting with the society, with our own world. Now the government wants to build dam. The government wants to bring development. And now the government wants to build tiger reserve in our area, and they want to remove our community from our particular area, and they want us to leave that area. So are you understanding what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So the problem is that we have the way of our living is our identity. And now the government, the people have problem with that. See, so that is what we are trying to fight with the government, not just with the government, with the people. And I think COP matters to us, because through this platform we are trying to say is that please come to our community, come to the local community, the way they live, because this is what their identity is that. So now if you come to our community, you will see it's very different. You know, we live with the animals, we have our own forest and everything. The idea of development, there's a thin line for us. So we don't believe in the idea of development with big dams and infrastructures and things. So for me, the impact of climate change is not just impacting us physically, but mentally as well. It's compromising our well-being. It's compromising our very, very existence. So this is what, the very other thing that what we can do as a young, so I don't speak much, I speak very short, so that's a thing, can't help it. Yeah. So what are we doing? So as I mentioned that we also don't have a land right in our place, because the government thinks it's a community land. So they don't believe in the community space, but this is how we have lived. We never believed in the private space. We never believed in the individual land grabbing. We always believed the community has been living together, and that's the biggest challenge. So we started a CCA. It's called a Community Conserve Area, and it's called Elopa Itugu Community Conserve Area. So it is also India's first tropical grassland community area. And it does have a lot of challenge. It's been 4 years from the formations, but we still face a lot of challenge by the government, because the government does not recognize it. And what we are trying to do with the CCA is that we are trying to go back to our way of living, how our ancestors were living, how peacefully we were coexisting. And believe me, it's possible. Believe me. And every year, the last year also I came to the COP, I tried to say this, that it's possible to live with the nature. It's possible to define your idea of development. Don't let those big words and big jumble words and the idea of big, you know, like how our education system is teaching us, right? But what development is and stuff. So I would ask the youth and all those people, especially in this panelists, if you have come here, obviously you guys are interested to know about this. So this is what I want to say is that when you go back, I want you all to think about it. What is your idea of development? What exactly you want, what exactly you believe, and trust me, we all have a good soul, we still have a good soul, and that is why we're in the COP, and then you'll all find the answer. Thank you.
That's great to hear. So I will get back to Christmas and talking about climate change. Like all these things, sort of things started back in 1992 when UNFCCC started to like have a thing like COP, and then we have COES and COPs all around the world. So I think, what's your opinion that you want to address here today? Like, what is the main cause of climate change, and what are your steps, your steps you are doing in your country, and what are the statistics of your country that is being affected by climate change? So yeah.
Well, thank you very much. So I'll talk about this in the lens of the communities I work with. And first of all, I want to acknowledge IOM. I'm part of the youth delegation, UN Migration. And my organization works with communities that have been displaced by floods. And but also coming from the health background as a professional, this is what I see. And I know the intersection between climate and health for long. The physical health has been talked about, but I want to stress so much about the mental health. And I'll give you a scenario of communities where we work with, where today you have a home and your kids are going to school, you're having like 3 meals, normal life, and then tomorrow or overnight, a flood comes and you have nothing. You have to be in an IDP camp. So, whereas your physical health might be affected, of course, because of nutrition and all that, but the biggest challenge that I usually see, and I'm a very strong advocate of climate and mental health, because there's little advocacy about that area, and also there's limited research, no data on the intersection, especially in the global south. For our friends in the global north, what they call climate anxiety. But for us, we see it's beyond anxiety. It's depression, it's post-traumatic stress disorder, it's depression. So the people we work with have all these, mental health challenges because of trauma from the losses of their property, financial stress because they can't afford life like they used to, but also the fact that they lose loved ones, because when the floods come, sometimes they claim people's lives, and these are sometimes mothers or fathers, sisters or brothers, and sometimes ones who are taking care of the other families, their families. So in my world, most of the things that I see, and are not so much in these spaces, is the intersection between the well-being of people and climate, and how climate disasters are so much interlinked with mental health. So, to answer your question, what are the statistics, for instance? In 2022, the Ministry of Health did a study, and they found out that 13 million Ugandans had mental health challenges. Whereas that was a generic study, most of the communities in Uganda are grappling either with droughts when you go in the eastern and the northern side, and in the western, there are floods. And we know that this is an agroeconomic country where people depend on agriculture. So when the agriculture is disrupted, the livelihoods are destroyed, we know that this might be the 13 million that we are talking about. And to put that in context, that is 14%. 30% of our population, of Uganda's population. So you can imagine, and I'm trying to draw a distinction because it was a generic study, but we are saying we are an agroeconomy, we depend on rain-fed agriculture for survival. So there's a high chance that a biggest percentage of this number is because of climate-induced challenges. And then also, I'll give another example, because I've not read about the statistics and all that. But for instance, in an area called Kasese where we work, the floods that happened in 2020, they put down a regional hospital, destroyed completely, and the Ministry of Health in our country closed that hospital because it was deemed unsafe for workers and everything. And this hospital was serving over 100,000 people in that region. So where are other people getting health services? But also to give you another case scenario, in the past 4 years where we're working with this camp, we have lost 3 HIV patients, people living with HIV in the camp. And the main reason was because people are depending on humanitarian relief food items, which are very unreliable. Patients or people living with HIV cannot take their medication in time because when you have not had food, you can't take medication. And just like that, we've lost 3 people living with HIV. But I can't stress much enough how this is beyond what I'm speaking about right now. In the morning, we were launching a documentary, climate migration documentary, that my organization, in partnership with IOM and the Global Green Grant Fund, have done. But the stories we had from people displaced, both in urban areas and rural areas, stressed about disease burden due to climate displacement. For instance, in the urban areas, people, when it rains, people are sleeping, they can't sleep actually, and their water is contaminated. Kids get diarrhea and other, waterborne diseases. So it's really, really very challenging, but I want to emphasize so much, and I hope that, because I know you came here because you're interested in climate and health, but in your working, in your activities, could you add a component of mental health? Because I know it is clear that physical health and climate change is a direct linkage, but there is more than that, the mental well-being of people that are affected. So I want to urge you all to include mental health in your advocacy and climate. But also, as I mentioned, one last thing.
Yeah, sure.
I sit as a young person, the only young person on the technical working group of the Health National Adaptation Plan of our country. And when we did the vulnerability impact assessment of the health sector in Uganda, we found out that the biggest number of our health workforce in the country do not know what to do when it comes to health and climate. I attended a medical school. There was never a point where we were taught about climate change.
Yeah.
So we need to put climate education, climate change in our health programming, both training, but also now with the workforce, already people who are in workforce, to continuously educate them about climate change. Thank you.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, and just to add to that,
Sure,
I think I'd like to highlight on the work we're doing in the Caribbean region to ensure the integration of climate change and health into the school curriculum. We have a sub-activity under the HAY campaign called the Eco-Active Youth. Well, we strongly believe that the amazing work that Crispus is doing today he got into it at an older age. We could actually get young people at an earlier age to get into it, and that way we're able to transform how young people are taking action. So we go to school and create clubs, and this is also, we also do some policy advocacy to ensure the integration of the intersection between climate change and health into school curriculum. That way, young people are able to get knowledge on how climate change affects human health, and even in the health medical school, they're able to understand the different root factors that could influence health crisis in different communities. And like you said, and I strongly agree with that, and I've seen mostly the impact of that. Most times people don't know what comes after flooding. It's usually the disease outbreak, because this water comes from nowhere. And if you come from the part of the world I come from, when the only chance that people get to dump their waste bin or refuse is during the raining period, and they just come to any close by drainage and just dump whatever waste that they have. And this has a lot of virus and anything, and your house is flooded, you're barely surviving under the water, you don't know where it comes from. So you're definitely going to be exposed to that, and in addition to the mental stress and other things you've rightly mentioned. So I'll pass it on to you.
Sure, that's great to hear. So yeah, talking about floods, I think that the floods in most of the countries, specifically talking about global south, like in Pakistan, the floods don't only damage your land, but they have severe effects even after like almost a year or two. And I think it is very much important for the youth to have a collective approach, because like talking about COPs. Prior to COP, I was one of the organizer of Alcoy, local conference of youth in Pakistan, that was accredited by Yongo. And like we have not only organized one Alcoy, but we have organized 7 premature Alcoys as well prior to that. So I think that the main aspect in like talking about conferences and COPs and alcoys. The thing is about funding, because it is my personal opinion that most of the people from underdeveloped countries don't have these kind of resources to attend COPs. So we have devised a plan to allow them to intake alcoys. So I think that by encouraging all of the youth, we have actually national youth statement from Pakistan that we have been submitted to the UNFCCC as well. So I think it is very, very much important to have a collective approach for all the people, because in COP there will be some few number of people, of a few youth, and then talking about the whole of the international world, there will be more people. So I think it is very much important for all the countries and for all the youngsters like us to have the voice of their youngsters and their fellows as well. So talking about climate change, Iman is acting as a climate change activist in Pakistan, and I know her like from past 2 to 3 years, and she has done some incredible work. And if you can kindly introduce yourself, and I have a question adding to that, what is your stance on the climate change in Pakistan, around the world, and what is the effect of COPs on climate change? So yeah.
All right, first I would like to introduce myself and say sorry for joining so late. I actually had a session a while ago in the Blue Zone. So my name is Iman Danish Khan, and I'm founder of Earth Voice Pakistan, which is a free-to-use climate education portal designed for children under 16 years of age that teaches children about climate change in their own regional languages. So we have our chapters in Pakistan, UAE, and also in the Caribbean region. So Pakistan in climate change, Pakistan is one of the most impacted areas on climate change. We rank number 5 as per the Climate Change Risk Index, I believe. And Pakistan was hit by severe floods a while ago. I was born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan, but my roots, my ancestors are from the north of Pakistan in Swat, and it was hit by really severe floods in 2022. So I actually witnessed the destruction myself with my own 2 eyes, like livestock being carried away by the water, floods being, like the schools being damaged and all that stuff. And it was really devastating to see. So Pakistan, and 33 million people were displaced, which is quite the number. And there were many casualties in the floods, and even after that it didn't stop. Not only were people's lives taken away by the floods, but even after that it didn't stop there. People took their own lives due to seeing what's going on. I know more people I know, they took their own lives after the flood, seeing its effects. All of their lives just swept away 2 seconds with the water. So, and Pakistan is still facing the challenges, even after 2 years of the floods. It happened in 2022. Right now we're sitting in 2024, but still it's impacted our agriculture, it's impacted everything, many buildings, and it'll keep on coming. It has kept on coming. In 2010, there were also these floods, and it covered 1/3 of the country. Now these floods have covered half of the country. So I'm just seeing what's next. So in events like COP, I think the thing we need to push forward, as with the global south, like Bangladesh had also faced these floods. So what we need to push forward is first of all, the loss and damage fund. Since we, for 33 million people displaced, all in total when these floods happened, we got 33 million US dollars, which is $1 per person, so that's not enough. So we need the money we were promised to move on from these floods.
That's great. That's great to hear. Actually, according to my opinion, climate justice is very much important. Talking about Pakistan and other countries around the world where they are kind of underdeveloped, and they require some kind of resources in order to remove their poverty as well. So I had experience. I was actually talking to a brick worker. He was a kind of a worker and working in a kind of a brick making factory. And I went to him and I said that this climate change, this environment, and there's this kind of stuff. And he laughs and he says to me that you are a joker. I am earning 500 to 1,000 rupees. It is kind of $2 maybe, $2 for my 6 to 7 children. And you came to me and you were saying that you should stop working on this big factory because it is affecting climate change. And I think that it is very much important to get in consideration of all the people, because most of the people think that it's a kind of myth and this is a kind of a gathering of some, you can say that rich folks, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think it's very much important to have the voice of the underprivileged communities, specifically from the areas of Global South and those areas that are actually affected, because in COP29 there are so much youngsters and so many people. For talking honestly, there will be so much less people that are actually affected by climate change.
Exactly. What I believe that in events such as COP, the thing we need, like the voices we need to really push forward is the indigenous communities.
Yeah.
Since the indigenous communities, they have been protecting the earth for decades. They've been protecting the earth for like 7 generations. And now they're the ones that are not included in the table.
That's
So
the
like
point.
I think personally the people that have been affected, they are the ones that should also be in these negotiations and events like these.
That's the point. So talking about the climate change, Nia, what is your perspective about the 29 COPs that have happened, and talking about next COP in Brazil, that whether we will be getting something useful or we will be having some kind of gatherings, we will be having some kind of musical nights and nothing out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, so for me, this is my second COP. So when in Dubai, which was my first COP, I was very excited. So I was very excited, and I told in my community that I'm going to represent the indigenous community, I'm going to shout, I'm going to do this and that. Nothing worked, no one listened. And I realized, and I was shocked to see the terminology, the big words. I could not recollect it, the term they use, right? The term they're using, the big words, it's very, very big for us. So we are being impacted directly, yes, it's true, but we are unable to understand the political term they use in the table. I'll be very honest. So for me, it was so difficult to understand, and I told the brother that it was very difficult for me to understand. So this year, I came with no hope. I came as my duty. No, the thing is, see, we are proud, and I say this all the time proudly, that I am doing, my community is doing their part of the thing. See, we are doing our thing. We are being living the way we have been living, because, as I said, this is our way of living. See, everyone has the different climate challenges. There are people who are trying to renew, they are focusing on renewable energy. Some people need more sources. They're trying to end the fossil fuel treaty and stuff. We are trying to just live. We are trying to exist. So we can't think about those big words. We're just trying to exist. We're just trying to save our forests so that we can live, because that is what our identity is. So if I look, obviously I'm going to come to the COP30 as usual. I'm going to support, and I'm going to have solidarity to all the people. And as I mentioned in the last time, that, you know, we have to do something about it. Like what we are doing, you guys have that potential. You guys are in the table, and you have to make sure that you can bring only, it's not just a duty of, or it's not that we only have to, only indigenous people should come forward and speak. No, you all are brothers and sisters. It's our earth. You might have, that's true that you all have completed your resource, your forest in a particular area, but still it's our earth. It's never too late. So let's just work together. We have to come together, and we have to give the solidarity and support, and it matters a lot. Trust me.
That's great to hear. So I completely agree with your point that a collective approach is very much need of time. And instead of promoting countries that are using fossil fuels, instead of promoting COPs that are actually being run by Coca-Cola and Pepsi, we should have a more of a kind of a physical approach in order to handle these kind of circumstances. Because I think that unless until we have some physical platform or some physical work in order to eradicate climate change, because like talking about previous decade, there was no climate change, to be honest. Like talking about Karachi in Pakistan, people are actually dying of heat strokes. And when I was young, I didn't heard anyone that is dying due to heat. And it's a kind of a new thing for me. And this is, I think this is both due to the efforts of people, and and also at the same time, the people are also neglecting the importance of climate change. So Christmas, I would like to allow to take your point of view on the future aspirations. What can we do in the future? Like I like talking about COP30. We are also having COP16 in Saudi Arabia for the biodiversity. What is the role of biodiversity in climate change, and why biodiversity is important, and what can we do in order to promote the biodiversity in the world as well? So,
well, thank you. Maybe I was thinking about the question you asked my colleague, and COP is, I think, like 3 years older than me. So I've always thought that if maybe the first and second COP provided the results of what was discussed then, we wouldn't have the mess that we are living in right now. So, but then you can't, I'm sorry to say, you can't be hopeless. You have to be optimistic that maybe things are getting better. Because when you look at things like health, they're just new into the climate change conversation. Not that climate change wasn't affecting health, but it had to, there's a lot of fight that went on for health to be recognized, for us to even have Health Day at the previous COP. But then also, this is my third COP. In the first COP, I just came, I was also excited. I was like, oh, I'm actually going to represent. And well, it felt so much for me because at that point, I just attended side events and then last year's COP, I came saying, when I went back, I was like, the next time I'm coming, I will come as a negotiator. Because I feel like maybe here I've not been so much pushing to the things I want. I went, I knew how negotiations work, learned about it, took a training, and I came as a negotiator. So when I reached in the negotiations, and this is frustrating to be honest, just like she said,
Yeah.
you spend hours and hours
And no outcome.
negotiating or discussing about a full stop, a comma, or even just a word,
Yeah.
single word. I'm not lying. I'm not lying, guys.
Yeah.
This is what, if you've been in the negotiation rooms, this is what happens. But also what I'm positive about is that, especially in the health and climate nexus, we see a lot of players coming on board. Before we came here, I was part of the team that led the second Health and Climate Pre-COP Symposium. So we had one last year where we unite health and climate actors in the country to generate a position paper which is submitted to the government. And this year we had another position paper submitted. So what we were asking for the negotiators to put on table was, because we had developed the Health National Adaptation Plan, just like I mentioned in the beginning, we are among the first 2 countries to do that under the UNFCCC. But the means of implementation, the enabler is climate finance. And what gives me a hope is that we are calling this a finance COP. But honestly, it can only be finance COP when whatever we are discussing here, from the new collective quantified goal on climate finance, whatever amounts we are generating or mobilizing, when they are able to reach the communities she comes from, I come from. But if it is business as usual, it doesn't make sense. Whether we mobilize trillions of US dollars, but if they don't go to the communities, then we're not doing anything. So for me, what gives me hope is that even in the times when you feel like you should give up, you find a reason to push. Yeah. So now we have negotiations around climate finance, and we can only be hopeful that we can mobilize enough monies to support our countries to mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change, but also the loss and damage fund that was agreed last year, to see how they incorporate things like health, because just like I mentioned, the hospital that was serving over 100,000 people, that's losses. Those are damages that need to be paid. And for instance, when we were asking the government and our negotiators, we were asking them to ensure that the new collective quantified goal has certain amounts earmarked for health and climate, especially to implement our climate and health policies. Thank you.
That's
so
great.
just to add on
Yeah, sure.
that as well, again, for me, I think it's hope that we are all holding on to it, and we just have to continue to have that hope. And I'm sorry that you are being frustrated by the multilateral processes. That's how usually negotiations are, and I've joined a couple of them, and the words are very complicated, like you mentioned. But yes, we're hopeful. Just a few days ago, I see African group of negotiators send out a statement on their stand on climate change and health. It means that people are now understanding the nexus and they're being acting on it. So we should hope that, okay, at the end of this COP, we have some meaningful outcome that are related to the impact of climate change and human health. And also to ensure that, and this is the result of the work that you're all doing, the push that you're doing across your countries and in your communities. And this year as well, we're supporting our HAE ambassadors through the HAE Country Network to develop policy brief. We have about 10 country network working on the research to really understand how climate change affects human health in the community. Then in the end, come up with a policy brief, then engage their policy makers through a policy advocacy campaign, and that way they're able to influence change. And that's what you're doing, and let's continue to have hope that some things change, and maybe at COP30, climate change and health intersection is adopted as an agenda to be discussed apart.
And maybe just to supplement on that, I remember when I was in my second last year at the university, I had started doing climate work, and my colleagues at the university were asking me, what the hell are you doing in climate change? But I'm glad that actually now there are more medical students coming on board, more health professionals doing work in climate change. So it took us time, but still there's that optimism, positivity that people are now embracing the intersection, and different actors are coming on board. Even the environmental organizations that used to work on climate change, they didn't have health and climate as a thematic area. But when you look at different work plans now, they have climate and health, which is a very big plus for us.
That's great to hear. So we are running out of time, and at the last I would like request my 4 panelists to have a final call of action for the people, like talking about my opinion. I personally think that it's very much important to have a physical implementation of our policies, because we are attending blue zones, we are attending green zones, but when there will be no physical implementation of our policies and policies are just on the table, we can't achieve anything. So my opinion is to have a physical implementation of all the things that have been promised by the global north in order to have a greener world. So yeah, Iman, talking about you.
Yes, so really quick, I just want to reflect on what I've said in this session as well. As you said, that we're attending all these sessions. We're talking in so many pavilions. There's so many negotiations going on. But what's the point of having so many COPs if there's going to be no action? So we're talking about the loss and damage fund. When is this fund going to be implemented? When are all of these funds going to go into the communities? As you said, if we don't act on it, there's no point of having a COP30 or any other COP as well.
A one-liner point from you, Nia, please.
Okay. So just a minute. So as everyone is telling our community to have hope, let me give you a simple example of having a hope in a minute. So see, for us now, we are having a hope as a community. We are living with hope and everything in a community. But example now, our neighbor China, it's just a neighbor to India, to our border, Arunachal Pradesh, is now building 30,000 megawatt dam. It's the world's largest dam. And now what the government is doing? The government want to reciprocate it, so the government of India has decided, okay, we will build 12,000 megawatt of dam. See? So how can we have hope? We're trying to have hope. We're trying to live peacefully. We don't bother anything. We're trying to stay in our place, stay in a community. We're trying to love, but see, this happens. So, but still, if I'm gonna go this COP with hope again. I'm gonna come again in COP30, and we'll discuss it again. Thank you.
Well, for me, we've talked about the problems and everything. Maybe I know people who are in the room are interested in this topic, and I would interest you in the work we're doing. For instance, I mentioned that there's a big challenge between mental health and climate, especially for people who are displaced. What my organization are doing together with our partners, we are trying to do capacity building for people, health workers, community health workers in these hotspot districts or areas in Uganda to ensure that they are caregivers or they can do psychosocial support for the climate displaced people. And yeah, we are calling out, we are calling partners and whoever might be interested in this, please. And also personally, I'm working on a research to assess the impacts of climate displacement on the mental well-being, because as someone who is working closely with the ministry, and everyone, just like you know, policymakers are obsessed with data. So we're trying to unearth the data such that we can inform the policies. So if anyone is interested in either of the two, please, when we're done here, we can have a chat.
That's great. Yes, as final remarks from your side.
Yes, so for me, I'd like to thank you for joining the stage today. You are making us proud as the Hay Campaign and the Ashley Foundation. This is just an evidence of the work that we're doing to support young people across the communities. And thanks to Action Vanguard for giving us a space to say what is in our mind, to share the incredible work that you're doing. I couldn't be more proud today. I know the whole policy and the multilateral process is very slow, and I don't know on behalf of who I'm going to apologize, but let's continue to do what we're doing. The pockets of work that we're doing in the long term would result to something tangible. We are seeing the immediate impact in our community, like you've mentioned, like we all have mentioned here. So let's continue to do that work that we have passion for, regardless of what happens in the outer world. Let's continue to push and make impact and fight for our future. And because, of course, let's unite the impact of climate change and health and fight for our future. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for joining.
It's been an absolute pleasure.